with a message title advertised out on the road, you would think we would have this church filled with people wanting to know the secret to being happy. And some of you may say, I know the secret. Others say, I'm still searching for the secret. What's the answer to this? Well, for this little girl, do you think she's happy? I mean, what does it take to be happy in today's world? Some of you know, and others, I'm happy. I don't know about you folks, but I'm having a great time. What does it take to make someone happy? Is it something that you can hold in your hands? Something that could eventually run out, very short time could run out. What does it take to say, I am truly happy? Some of you may know the name of Phil Robertson of Duck Dynasty fame. Phil Robertson became rather well known for a saying he had, happy, happy, happy. He wrote a book by that same title. It very quickly became a best-selling book. When we think about being happy, some people say, if I were like Phil Robertson, I would be happy too. If I were a multimillionaire, I would be happy. If I had my own television show, I would be happy. If I had enough money, I didn't have to work, I would be happy. If I could spend all the time I wanted to hunting or fishing or whatever my hobby was, I would be happy. If I had a spouse, if I had kids, if I had grandkids, if I had a home that was paid for. What is the barrier between happiness and these people who say, if I had this? It's a small word, but it's a huge barrier. The small word is if. If I had this, if I had that, if this situation were changed, if that were gone, if this were present, then I would be happy. And I wonder, would they be? Because sometimes, for example, home ownership. Does home ownership come with its own set of challenges? I got some people going, oh yeah. Yeah, if you own a home, you got to maintain it. There'll be problems that occur rather unexpectedly and rather expensively. So when we think about this happiness, that word if, it's an incredible barrier for some people. What makes you happy? Tough question, isn't it? 2006, I've got a seminar to conduct in Mason City, Iowa. I don't know how many of you have ever been to Mason City, Iowa. You haven't lived till you've been to Mason City, Iowa. One Sunday afternoon, I go over here to the airport. I'm flying United Airlines, and I go all the way out into the A concourse where United flies out, and I've checked in. I'm sitting there for a while, and about 30-45 minutes later, they announce, everyone on flight 2773 to Chicago, please come to the desk. If you've flown much, you know that kind of statement, that usually has a boding of evil, of negativity here. Something's not right. I get up there and I'm expecting to say, well, you know, one of the wings on our biplane fell off, or we got a better job offer for crop dusting, so we're not going to take passengers today. They didn't say why. They said the flight has been canceled. Folks, I'm not happy. I have to get to Mason City. I've got a program at 8 o'clock on Monday morning. I have to be at Mason City, Iowa. But hey, United Airlines, being customer focused they are, they said, we've taken care of you people. There's about 15 of them. We've taken care of you all. We booked you on American Airlines, and we'll make sure your luggage gets transferred over. Okay, happy they're going to get us over there, but I'm not happy I got to trudge all the way across the airport with my carry-on and my briefcase. But I get there, I check in at American Airlines, things are good. To about 30-45 minutes later. Would everyone on flight 1914 to Chicago please come to the desk? Okay. You're starting to see a theme here? Our flight's been canceled, but we have rebooked you on Delta Airlines. Oh, 3 airlines handling my luggage. This does not bode well at all. But Delta Airlines got us there. My luggage didn't make it. Get to the hotel, I check in, and they get me all registered, and they say, well, Miss Richmond, anything? I said, yes, my luggage did not get here, and all my toiletries, of course, were in the luggage, so I need, like toothbrush, toothpaste, comb, razor, shaving cream, any of those things. And so they started handing out some items. They said, well, Mr. Richmond, I hate to tell you, but we're out of razors. All we have left are the pink ladies Norelco razors. Well, you do what you have to do. And I will say, my legs have never felt smoother. What does it take to make you happy? And you see how little things can sort of rob you of happiness very, very quickly? Because our plans, our schemes, our ideas, they get disrupted by life. How do we manage when we know that these disruptions will occur? Some people say, well, Phil Robertson never deals with anything like that. Oh, I can promise you that he has, and that he does. Just a couple years ago, ABC Television ran a special called The Mystery of Happiness. And they went to those people we might say would normally be happy to find out if achieving their dreams had changed their life. They asked one woman who'd won $26 million in the lottery if she was happy. Now, if you won $26 million, would you be happy? Some are going, maybe, but maybe not. 26 million. And this woman replied, not really. Many people who've won the lottery have found that it totally destroyed their lives. They asked European royalty, they asked Pulitzer Prize winners if they were happy, but they weren't. They asked many athletes in a number of different fields, are you happy? Even talked to Tom Brady. Tom Brady has now won 6 Super Bowls. This is before he'd won his 6th. But they asked, are you happy? He said that after winning the Super Bowl, all he could think of was, is this all there is? He's at the pinnacle of his sport. He is considered by some to be the greatest of all time quarterbacks. And he was thinking, is this all there is? He wasn't truly happy. And what is amazing, that it was non-Christians who put this special together. The entire program pointed out the unhappiness of man. About all they could do was reveal that babies get happy when they get what they want, and they get unhappy when things are taken away from them. So think about that. Babies get happy when they get what they want, but they get unhappy when it's taken away from them. That applies to babies. Does it apply to preteens, teenagers, young adults, midlife people, senior adults? We're happy when we get what we want, and we're unhappy when it's taken away. Who takes it away from us? Sometimes we'll say it's the government. Sometimes it's an individual. Sometimes it's just circumstances. Companies change. They downsize. They go out of business. People move. People die. Changes occur. Things are taken away. People are taken away from us. And we're unhappy because of that. We don't control the situation. And that perhaps is the biggest frustration that we experience. So for us to be happy, to discover the secret of being happy, the first thing we must realize and admit is that a happy life is going to have ups and downs. I'll be reading this morning from Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 9 through 15, and then I'm going to come back a bit later to verses 1 through 8. Solomon writes, what does the worker gain from his struggles? I have seen the task that God has given people to keep them occupied. He's made everything appropriate in its time. He's also put eternity in their hearts, but man cannot discover the work God has done from beginning to end. I know there is nothing better for them than to rejoice and enjoy the good life. It is also the gift of God whenever anyone eats, drinks, and enjoys all his efforts. I know that all God does will last forever. There is no adding to it or taking away from it. God works so that people will be in awe of him. Whatever is has already been, and whatever will be already is. God repeats what has passed. Solomon starts this passage with, what does the worker gain from his struggles? Some people say, well, I have a chance to earn a living, I can have income, I can have a home, I can do all these things because of my struggles. Even though it's tough, we can do that. Many years ago, there were two musical notes that sent terror into everyone who heard them. No other notes in the musical scale speak of fear, terror, and death like these two notes. They are an E note followed by an F. Now, when they were originally played, it was 6 cellos and 3 basses played them together. And when they were played, they sounded like this. How many of you recognize Jaws? John Williams' score from Jaws. And these two notes, the E and the F of life, they can keep us on the run. They can keep us terrified about what the future may bring. And because we're terrified, we're not happy. The reality is, to have a happy life, you're going to have some ups and downs. It's going to happen. These two notes in life, the E and F. The E stands for expectations. Every person in this room has expectations of life, of people that we encounter in life, of what life will bring us. It's all the combined things that we think that life should bring to us. A happy home, a satisfying marriage, a generous salary, a comfortable retirement, great health, a famous reputation. The E note would be okay if it were just played alone. If that were just the only note on the score, the musical score of your life, we'd be okay with that. But when it's combined with the F note, the F of failed expectations, the F note of divorce, the F note of financial struggles, the F note of kids that don't turn out the way that they're supposed to, the F note of disease, then a monster is created. And like Jaws, we feel like it will swallow us alive. When we begin to play these two notes together in life, expectations versus failures, that's where our disappointment sets in, and that's where our lack of happiness comes from. We begin to run away. We want to run from life because this Jaws scenario feels like it's engulfing us. How many of you ever noticed that just about the time that your cup of happiness in life is just to the rim, someone bumps your elbow and spills it? It happens for us. Here's a passage that tells us, it gives us perspective that we should change the E, the expectations that we have from life. The book of Ecclesiastes was written by King Solomon, the son of David. Not only was Solomon one of the richest men in the world, but also the wisest. His wisdom was unsurpassed. We read from 2 Chronicles chapter 1. That night God appeared to Solomon and said to him, "Ask, what should I give you?" And Solomon said to God, "You've shown great and faithful love to my father David, and you've made me king in his place. Lord God, let your promise to my father David now come true. For you've made me king over a people as numerous as the dust of the earth. Now grant me wisdom and knowledge, so I may lead these people, for who can judge this great people of yours?" We have to read this message. It's God's message. It's voiced through Solomon. But we're going to see this now through passages 1 through 8 of Ecclesiastes 3. And it puts it in context. There's a fundamental claim of this book that we are mortals doomed to perish, and that our work will perish with us. And this is not meant to be a downer passage, but this is the reality. We are mortals. We are doomed to perish. Our work will perish with us because of the fallen nature of mankind. Verse 1, there is an occasion for everything, and a time for every activity under heaven, a time to give birth and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down, and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to throw stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to avoid embracing. A time to search and a time to count as lost. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to sow. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. God is saying everything has a season. Everything has a time. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that would include our happiness. If you were constantly happy, every day, every moment you were happy, do you think you would really enjoy it as much? Would you begin to take that for granted, perhaps? Because life is good. Life is always good. Life is grand. Why would anyone be unhappy? You would take it for granted, is my fear. God says everything has a season and a time. Our work, no matter what it is, it's not eternal. We naturally want to stay on the positive side of this list that Solomon has written here. We want to laugh rather than to weep. We want to love rather than to hate. We want to have peace rather than war. We live in this world, though, that's filled with conflict, change, and death. Like it or not, that's it. We must accept the fact we cannot have unchanging bliss. If you started making the list, if you recall all the funerals you had been to in your lifetime, many of us, it would be a rather lengthy list, wouldn't it? And that's just part of life. When Adam and Eve broke the commandments that God had given them, they set our timetable in motion, and for every other human being. We have this musical note of F in our life that accompanies the E. We're going to have some great things that happen. We're also going to have some failures that happen. God has told us this blissful state of happy, happy, happy all the time. It's an impossible dream, an unrealistic expectation. There's a tour group that was going to the top of the Empire State Building. And no, Rhonda was not part of this particular group. At about the 102nd floor, one lady asked the tour guide, if the cables on this elevator break, do we go up or down? He said, well, ma'am, that depends on how you're living. There are some people who are going through life and they're happy, 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 but they're not loving God. And they will be going down at that point in time. A happy life is going to have its ups and downs. Now, maybe you wouldn't say that yesterday was a happy day. Maybe you had a disagreement with your boss, argument with your spouse, got into it with your kids. You and your neighbor had words. Storm blew a tree onto your house. It got so bad that the dog packed its things and left home too. You would say that was not a happy day. But in 1969, Charlie Rich released a song that was written by his wife titled Life's Little Ups and Downs. And two lines from that go, life has its little ups and downs like ponies on a merry-go-round. And if we were to sort of run a video of the history of our life, that's probably what we would see. Like the pony on the merry-go-round, our life goes up and down, up and down. God says that's what's going to happen for us. Now, what do we do when we encounter the downs? Because they will come. Paul tells us in Philippians 4:4, rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Even when things are not going well, when you have the failed expectations, when it's down, rejoice in the Lord always. We have to realize, even to have a happy life, expectations have to be tempered, that we will have some ups and downs. Second, a happy life requires the right focus. What is the focus of your existence? What's the purpose of your life? A gentleman named Charles Kingsley wrote, we act as though comfort and luxury were the chief requirements of life. Think about that. We act as though comfort and luxury were the chief requirements of life, when all we need really to make us happy is something to be enthusiastic about. You change your focus. You're not worried about the material items. In verses 9 through 11 of Ecclesiastes 3, what does the worker gain from his struggles? I've seen the task that God has given his people to keep them occupied. He's made everything appropriate in its time. He's also put eternity in their hearts, but man cannot discover the work God has done from beginning to end. Earthly pursuits, well, they're necessary for us. They can be unprofitable. We might see them that way. Why do people work? Because they want to? Often, yes. Recently, I was with a friend. He had retired about 2.5 years ago, and after 6 months, he went and found a job. He said, I felt like I had no purpose in life. Why do we work? Well, there's necessity. Food, clothing, shelter, those types of things that we feel are necessities of life. Christians without goals are a little like Alice in Wonderland in that great fairy tale. In the conversation between her and the Cheshire Cat, Alice asked, would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here? That depends a good deal on where you want to get to, said the cat. I don't much care where, said Alice. And the cat replied, then it doesn't matter much which way you go. I need to know where I want to go. I need to have some direction, some focus, rather than just, I'm going to go somewhere. I just don't know where that where is right now. God's children should know where we want to get to. We ought to know what we want to spend our time focusing on, what our activities should be. We need to know that we have the right focus. Maybe this video will help us understand that right focus.
Rush hour traffic, don't you just love it? If there is a stalled vehicle in the right lane causing a bit of congestion, you might want to avoid this route.
The forecast, cloudy, windy, and cold.
Thanks a lot.
Sunny breaks and diminishing winds.
I need you to process these. All of them. By Friday.
Thanks.
Oh, no ketchup. Awesome. Thanks for nothing. Thank you, sir. You're very welcome. Come on, go, 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 go! Ah, thanks a lot. It's not like we need you to catch a pass or anything.
Why are you thankful about that, Daddy?
I was just being sarcastic, honey.
What's sarcastic?
It's what Daddy's like when he's in a bad mood.
So you're not really thankful?
No, I am thankful. I'm thankful for a lot of things. Thankful for you, for one, and thankful for Mommy. God's been really good to us, taking care of us. Not so much of our football team, but He's taking really good care of us. Thank you, sweetie.
For what?
For reminding me.
We have to have the right focus. Jesus clearly outlines the role for us as his followers in Matthew 5. He says, "You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt should lose its taste, how can it be made salty? It's no longer good for anything but to be thrown out and trampled on by men. You are the light of the world. A city situated on a hill cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket, but rather on a lampstand, and he gives light for all who are in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven." What's my focus? God says I'm to be salt and light. I'm supposed to bring salt, change, a flavor of God to the world. I'm supposed to show light, give people a vision, a path that they can follow that will lead them to eternity. I'm to be salt and life. That's my focus. Can I be thankful for that? We're going to be resentful. God, that's a lot of burden. That's a lot of expectation on me. What if I don't succeed? My sister and brother-in-law were having a yard sale yesterday, and she said that some older gentleman stopped by, and he'd been browsing a bit, and he walked up to Larry and said, "Do you know Jesus? Do you know my friend Jesus?" And Myra's comment was, "Oh, to be so bold." See, this gentleman gets it. He's got the right focus. He's to be salt and light to a dying world. Why not at a yard sale? What better opportunity? When we change our focus to what God wants instead of what we want, our level of happiness will go up. That's an incredible part of it. We need to discover and embrace how God plans to use us for His glory. I'd like you to meet someone, a gentleman named Philip Ings. Philip and his brother Robert are worth $12.1 billion for their control of what's called the Far East Organization. $12.1 billion. You're thinking, if I had that kind of money, I'd be happy too. When you're a billionaire, what is important to you? I mean, you can buy virtually anything that you can put your hands on. Any material item, you can buy virtually anything. So what would make you happy? Philip Ing says he's the wealthiest man in Singapore. His relationship with Jesus Christ is more valuable to him than anything. He spent years searching. He said, what I've discovered is that all of us are broken. We all have a missing piece. I discovered the missing piece was God through Jesus Christ. Now let's go back to the happiness or the lack of, because Philip has lived it. He said, I was always in search for a better life, a better purpose, a better me, a better everything. I was just looking at all the wrong things. When I realized there is no better me or better things without Jesus, then it all snapped into place. He said, maybe we all have to look deeper. I treasure my faith more than anything, so I just wish for everyone to have that peace and joy. It sure beats a lot of money and material things you may have. Imagine how happy your very existence would be when your focus is right. When you know that your purpose in life, not to accumulate, but to glorify God. A happy life is going to have its ups and downs. A happy life requires the right focus. And number 3, a happy life is God's intent for His children. Verse 12 of our passage. I know there's nothing better for them than to rejoice and enjoy the good life. We could stop right there, couldn't we? Nothing better for them than to rejoice and enjoy the good life. Some people say, Brother Ann, I don't have a good life. I got this problem, I got that problem, and I'm struggling financially, and my health is not good. I'm not having a good life. Maybe you got the wrong focus, if those are the things that you're considering are requirements for a good life. What is the one thing that's required to have a good life? Jesus. Just Jesus. Because this life, it's temporal. This is short term. Jesus is eternity. That's what we're going to have when we have the good life. Verse 13, it is also the gift of God whenever anyone eats, drinks, and enjoys all his efforts. Okay, so let's suppose that Dot goes out and gets her a job tomorrow. And she earns some money so she can eat what she wants to. And she drinks what she wants to. She gets her a Coke or Diet Coke. And she enjoys her efforts. How many of us would say that the work I do means so much to me? A gentleman asked me just last week, he said, what would you do? What would really make you happy to do? I said, what I'm doing right now. I knew from the time I was back in school that I wanted to teach. That's what God equipped me to do. I get to do this every week. So I get to eat, I get to drink, but most importantly, I get to enjoy my efforts of sharing God's Word. That's my purpose in life. I get to glorify God through doing that. Each of us get that same opportunity. It's not about our efforts, it's about what God does through our efforts. Verse 14, please. I know that all God does will last forever. There's no adding to it or taking from it. So God's work, God's handiwork is eternal. Verse 15, whatever is has already been, and whatever will be already is. God repeats what has passed. So verse 12, basically what he is saying, don't forfeit enjoyment because of what you can't understand. Let's suppose that you go to the world's greatest amusement park. Some of you have been to some really, really nice ones. You go to the world's greatest amusement park, and it's a great day. You're looking forward to this. And you're trying to figure out, which of these exciting rides am I going to get on? And then you go to a bench and you pull out your laptop computer and you sit there and start analyzing the metal work, the nuts, the bolts, the radius of the turns. You're trying to understand how all this was created, how it was all put together. Now, 8 hours later, your computer's still humming and you've not enjoyed the first thing that day. Do we go through life like that? We try to analyze what God is doing. We have no way of understanding God's thoughts, God's means, God's purposes. Our minds are not nearly of the capacity to do that. God is saying, I want you to enjoy life. Go back to verse 12, please. I want you to enjoy life. That's God's intent. I know there's nothing better for them than to rejoice and enjoy the good life. When you know Jesus, when you've given your life, there's nothing better than that for you. Isaiah 55:9 points out how feeble our attempts are to understand God. For as heaven is higher than earth, so my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. We won't ever figure God out. We just have to simply accept what God is doing. Jesus has said, I have come that they may have life, and that they may have it more abundantly. That's John 10:10. In the New Life Version Bible, that same verse reads, I came so they may have life, a great full life. Jesus did not say, I came so they might have a life that's filled with unhappiness. He didn't say, I came so they might have a life that's devoid of joy. Jesus did say, I came that they might have an abundant life, a great, full life. You see, God does want you to be happy, happy, happy. That's the secret to being happy, understanding what God has given you. A happy life is going to have its ups and downs. A happy life requires the right focus. A happy life is God's intent for his children. Well, what would it take to make you happy? Butch is just dying, I know, to get up here and blow bubbles. But Jet might get here before you do, Butch. Having some relaxation, some playtime, certainly that's fun. But will it make you happy for the long term? We need to know that it's not just about activities. It's about the purpose of our activities. And the purpose should be to glorify God.